Hello and welcome back. We are hot off the heels of a video where I told you all the ways to not eat if you have hydrogen sulfide overgrowth. So now I'm happy to bring you a video about what is the best diet for people with hydrogen sulfide overgrowth. This is applicable for hydrogen sulfide SIBO as well as just hydrogen sulfide dysbiosis as diagnosed on a stool test. If you want to learn more about what to eat if you have hydrogen sulfide overgrowth, stay tuned. Okay, so let's start off with just the breakdown that I'm going to give you. I will preface this video by saying I am not a fan of super strict dietary restriction. I was there, I was hacking out foods left and right trying to heal my gut, and I will tell you from firsthand experience and professional experience, the more you restrict your diet, the more difficult it is to come back out of that and eat normally again. And also, the more you're going to set yourself up for nutritional deficiencies and dysbiosis and candida overgrowth. We have a lot of material on this on the IBS Freedom podcast. I've talked about it on this channel as well. So if you're curious to learn more, go check out some of the resources I have for you. But for right now, I just want to point out, I have the board broken down into things that you can increase and things that you can decrease. For the decrease column, it doesn't mean it's a never again thing. It doesn't even mean you have to strictly eliminate it for a couple weeks or a couple months. It's just don't go overboard. And I'm going to give you some examples of that. So as an example, we know that some of the organisms that produce hydrogen sulfide include Disulpha vibrio, Bilophila, and they work together with other bacteria. That's a note to make too. Some of the proteobacteria phylum members like E. coli, Klebsiella, maybe Pseudomonas, we've Citrobacter. We've got a lot of possible hydrogen sulfide producers, but we don't know what quantity they're producing it in. But the two main ones I want to focus on are Disulpha vibrio and Bilophila, and what we know about those. And also there's some overlap with proteobacteria. So some of the things that we know about these bacteria is that they are either bile tolerant or they can actually digest bile acids to some degree. And bile is a great source of sulfur for them, for one. But the thing about this is that they seem to really like fat, higher fat diets, particularly saturated fat. And if you remember from some previous videos, higher saturated fat diets, yes, that includes coconut oil, can induce some transient leaky gut. So if you have any concerns about leaky gut, this is relevant as well. So again, I'm going to put this in the decrease, not eliminate completely column, but I'll just write sat fat, saturated fat. The people who I see get in the most trouble with this are folks who try to go carnivore or do the Atkins diet or go keto, and sometimes people who try to go paleo. A lot of those diets overemphasize or completely emphasize saturated fat in the diet as opposed to healthier fats like olive oil, avocado, almonds, coconut, some of these other healthy fats. So just don't go overboard with meat or dairy or eggs, and I think you should be okay. What I mean by overboard is you could probably have like a serving or 2 or 3 of meat a day and maybe like a serving or 2 of dairy a day, maybe have like a couple of eggs, like 2, 3, 4 eggs a day. If you're topping any of those numbers though, you're probably going overboard and you need to start emphasizing other foods in your diet for the sake of this conversation at least. So just don't overdo it on saturated fat. Now to come over here to the side of something to increase, if you remember from the previous video where we talked about the low FODMAP diet and brassica vegetables, there's some studies now that suggest that the low FODMAP diet actually increases hydrogen sulfide producers, which is the opposite of what we want to do. And we have a study that shows that eating brassica vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, kale, all of those, Brussels sprouts, that was escaping my brain for a minute, all of those cruciferous and brassica vegetables help lower hydrogen sulfide producers. So if you're looking for things to emphasize in your diet, you can increase the FODMAPs just in general. So things like onion and garlic, perhaps wheat if you can tolerate some wheat, avocado, lentils, you name it, whatever ones that you can tolerate, go ahead and eat them. And if you're not sure, if you don't think you have an issue with the FODMAPs, just go ahead and eat all of them with abandon. Just Google the low FODMAP diet and do the exact opposite if you can tolerate all of them reasonably well. But FODMAPs in the diet will lower hydrogen sulfide producers, and also brassica, which I don't know how to spell, so this might be embarrassing. Let's see. I feel like there's 2 S's. If it's wrong, don't judge me. Brassica vegetables. So again, that's something like kale and, hey, just go sit down, please. I have an audience member today. My daughter's watching me, so I'm reminding her to be quiet. Anyway, so brassica vegetables, like I said, things like broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, whatever floats your boat. But any of these foods from the FODMAP or brassica vegetable family are going to be great. I will also throw out there that just fiber tends to go a really long way at inhibiting these guys. So when in doubt, fiber it out. I know that and again, we're going to talk about this in the herbs and supplements video, but things like PHGG, galacto-oligosaccharide, GOS supplements, those have been shown to inhibit hydrogen sulfide producers. There's an herb that got a lot of attention a few years ago that Dr. Haverlek, the probiotic advisor guy, had mentioned. And I think that one probably works largely because of the polysaccharide and fiber content in it. So I think that fiber just in general is a great way to go when you have hydrogen sulfide overgrowth. The more fiber, the better. We have research now that different types of fiber-rich foods like the FODMAPs and the brassica veggies can help lower disulfovibrio and some of these hydrogen sulfide producers. We also have some research if you're looking at the proteobacteria phylum, which is that phylum of bacteria that includes E. coli, Klebsiella, Pseudomonas. If you're looking at that group of bacteria, they tend to be inhibited really nicely by prebiotics, and fiber, like inulin, for example, is fantastic for that. So I think when in doubt, fiber is just going to be your friend here. But again, if you haven't been eating a ton of fiber, say if you've been on the low FODMAP diet, or you've been restricting your diet, or if you are coming off of a more standard American diet and you haven't been eating a ton of fiber, don't go from like 10 grams of fiber a day up to 30. Like, you've got to do it gradual enough that you don't freak out your microbiome and freak out your gut. So give yourself some time to process it. You could do a little bit of nutrition tracking, see how much fiber you get on a day-to-day, and then increase by maybe 10-20% every week or so to get up to whatever your goal might be. But fiber, FODMAPs, brassica veggies, all good stuff. Coming back over here, again, saturated fat, generally speaking, is going to be the biggest hit for the hydrogen sulfide producers, or rather the biggest stimulus for them. And that's going to let some of that hydrogen sulfide cross over the barrier of the gut because it also induces some leaky gut. Now, beyond that, we could also say that animal protein to some extent is going to be problematic. Again, I don't think that anybody needs to go vegan or vegetarian. I say that, and I was a vegetarian for 11 years, so I'm not anti, I'm just saying I don't think it's necessary here. But if you overdo animal protein, again, like carnivore, Atkins, and a lot of paleo people, I know paleo is not intrinsically high in animal protein, but a lot of people make it that way when they try paleo. And keto to a certain degree, some keto people don't do keto correctly and they end up overemphasizing animal protein in keto as well. But if you overdo animal protein in general, that also is going to be really rich in methionine, which is a sulfur-containing amino acid, and it's something that tends to be a little bit more of a fuel for the proteobacteria phylum, which again is the big umbrella kind of parent group that we're looking at when we talk about these hydrogen sulfide producers. So the number one to really watch out for, I think, is saturated fat. Underneath that, to a certain extent, you could think animal protein. And then the last one I will mention is just sugar. When I say this, I mean processed sugar and simple sugars. So not necessarily all carbohydrates, because some of them are going to be mighty helpful for the fiber conversation, but just from the perspective of like table sugar, processed sugar, maybe to an extent, things like honey, maple syrup, agave, stuff like that. Just anything that's overly sweetened and is more frequent in your diet than it should be could probably perturb this. I don't think that fructose in whole fruit would be very problematic, and I don't think that the occasional brownie or the occasional ice cream is going to really throw this off too much. But a diet that's high in simple sugar has been also shown to increase or feed the hydrogen sulfide producers, so I would just be mindful of that too. Again, like, you don't have to do like a super strict sugar cleanse or a sugar detox or anything. Just be mindful, like maybe if you're having treats, try to have them be lower sugar, like dark chocolate, which is high in polyphenols, which might feed some of the good bacteria and inhibit the hydrogen sulfide producers. Try to choose things that are less sweetened and maybe have them less frequently, and save the really big treats that have processed sugar for special occasions like birthdays and weddings and that sort of stuff. So there you have it, guys. That is the nuts and bolts of the diet for hydrogen sulfide SIBO. Honestly, just eat healthy is really what it boils down to. In a weird way, hydrogen sulfide does not necessitate different dietary treatment in my experience with it, and I've helped a lot of people with this. Just don't overdo it on saturated fat. That's probably your number one to be cautious of. And then secondarily, don't overdo it on animal protein and processed sugar. And try to emphasize things like high FODMAP foods, brassica vegetables, and fiber in your diet. And that, coupled with the herbs and the supplements we're going to talk about in the next video, will help go a long, long way in your fight against hydrogen sulfide overgrowth. Thank you for your patience with the editing on this video, by the way. I did have a 6-year-old audience member today who made a little bit of noise, but I think we still pulled off the video reasonably well. So hashtag parent life for those of you fellow parents out there. I'll see you in the next video. Hey guys, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe, ring the bell, click the like button, and leave a comment down below with the videos that you would like to see me do next. Doing all of those really helps support the channel and support my efforts in making as many videos as possible for you guys. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.